Good evening and welcome to the special school committee meeting tonight, Wednesday, June 17th. This meeting is being recorded for LCTV, aired live, and being live streamed at longmeadow.org. If we can begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Longmeadow School Committee maintains educational policies that foster continuous improvement by challenging and supporting all children in a safe, caring, learning environment, enabling them to reach their highest potential and become productive citizens. Through effective communication and positive relationships, the Longmeadow School Committee will make informed decisions in the best interest of the schools, students, and Longmeadow community. Tonight's meeting is a special meeting in order to approve a new math curriculum. Are there any visitor comments? If you'll come up and state your name.
Good evening, Alex Mitreski, 68 Ellington Street. My comments are more related to the last school committee meeting and the review of the Superintendent Doyle. Is it appropriate
That is
for me
not
to
for this
do?
meeting. This meeting is only for the math curriculum. If you'd like, our regularly scheduled meeting is Monday, the 22nd.
Okay, I will not be able to personally attend that one, so.
If you'd like to submit it in writing, but this is strictly math. We are doing no other business tonight.
Okay.
Okay?
Maybe on the regarding to the math, just a quick note. I guess during the whole year, there was a little bit of confusion of the difference in piloting and who's doing which pilot and which type of a math curriculum. I don't know if it's possible to perhaps do like an Excel spreadsheet of which teacher in which school piloted which program, just so that, for example, I will know whether my son at Blueberry, what math program he was following, and the teacher that perhaps he will have in center, what a program was that teacher doing. You see what I'm just trying to understand, because so some misinformation that I didn't get it, whether some teachers halfway through the semester changed the piloting or midway. I think it's just a lot of confusion within the parents. So just a little bit of clarification. And I don't think it's very complex, because I sat down with Miss Pratt for 2 minutes and she explained to me the three programs because some of the names are a little different, but it's not that complicated. It helps a little bit to clarify what was being piloted. All right.
There was some parent communication, but it was back quite a while ago, Alex. So I can resend it and let you know who your kids are.
Okay.
Had and what they're going to.
Okay. Great. Okay. Thanks.
All right, thank you. School committee comments, is there anything prior to the math presentation that anybody wanted to share? I'd just like to welcome Russell and Michelle as our two newly elected and re-elected committee members. So I will turn it over to you, Sue.
And I'm going to turn it right over to Chelsea Berry. She is our elementary math curriculum coordinator, and she's going to do an intro, and then I'll follow up with an additional presentation. So sorry to make you move, but
No, that's fine.
So I'm going to start by discussing where we are now, or at least at the beginning of the year. We had teachers using different programs and resources to teach. They were all teaching to the Common Core. However, across the grades and across the schools, each teacher was prescribing a different method to get those lessons across. And so when we looked at our MCAS scores, we saw that there was a little bit of a dip, and then they started to stagnate a little bit in the past few years for each grade. And our needs improvement population has started to go on an upward trend. So we're at a place where we need to take action. We need to align across our schools, across our grades, so that our students are receiving a consistent education in math and a consistent language. When we think about that, we have to decide what program will our students receive? What kind of program do we want to invest in? So when we think about what our students need, we have to remember that they are going into lots of jobs that we might not even know about yet. So we need to be creating and fostering these innovative problem solvers. They need to be able to investigate and find creative ways to solve problems. They have to be creative communicators. They need to be able to really embrace and explore different points of views and use evidence to support and express their ideas. We need investigative explorers. We want them to be able to research and use technology. We need versatile readers, learning about the world with challenging fiction and nonfiction texts, which you may think, where does this come into play in math? But it will, and it does. We need critical thinkers. They need to be able to use the academic vocabulary and navigate during the different subjects. Math is something that we use globally, so we need to be able to all use the same mathematical language. And we need resourceful learners. They need to have strong foundational skills and be able to expand on them every year. So, when the employers were asked what 3 skills they would want in their future employees, the top 3 were in adaptive problem solving, collaborative communication. We want global thinkers. They have to express themselves and work with people all over the world. So when you're thinking about that, you need to be able to explain yourself in way more than one way. And they need to be digitally fluent. So all of these things actually come into play into the Common Core's 8 mathematical practices. It is prescribed in the Common Core that teachers always be aware of these 8 mathematical practices. They're not a checklist. They're things you always want to be thinking of. You want your students to be making sense of problems and persevering in them. You want them to be, here we'll go back, reasoning abstractively and quantitatively. You want them to be able to construct viable arguments and critique others. You want them to model with mathematics, use appropriate tools, attend to precision, look for and make use of structure, and express regularity and repeated reasoning. So, we want innovative problem solvers. So we need a math program that uses real-world situations and supplies students with adaptable problem-solving tools. We want to give them the same tools that they'll be able to use year after year, problem after problem to rely back on. So we have chosen as a committee math expressions, and I've just sampled a few different examples of where these things come into play. And so in this little snapshot, this is a 3rd grade activity, and they're encouraging looking at the relationships between equal groups and how if you know 2 times 8, you can find 4 times 8. And if you know 5 times 8, you could go back and find 4 times 8. So even if your child doesn't memorize those or forgets one of their facts, they do have a strong foundation of how to work around that until they actually build up their complete fluency in the facts. There are lots of applications in real-world situations asked for problem solving. And here's where the reading comes into play. There are more complex questions. They're not just straightforward. We're asking a little bit higher level of the children. And to explain themselves. We want creative communicators. So we need a math program that supports written and verbal analysis and explanations of mathematics. In math expressions, one of the cutest parts of it is the puzzled penguin. And puzzled penguin is always puzzled. So he is always writing to your math students, and he's always asking, how do I figure this out? Why would anyone figure it out by doing this? Or can you explain this to me? And so the kids are asked to write a full letter to Puzzled Penguin explaining, helping them out. And then, this isn't very, a part of math expressions is, it's named expressions because it's about expressing verbally and written. And so, a part of it is the math talk. And as our teachers get more comfortable with math talk, they will start at a level where maybe currently now it's in a answer response level, but as the teachers and the students get more comfortable with speaking about mathematics, you are going to want them to be at a level where they are co-teaching and co-learning together, where the conversation is more give and take than give. And on that note, it's really encouraging that you create a positive learning community where you're understanding one another, you're asking questions of each other, and you're explaining yourself so that you can understand yourself more clearly but others. And we're creating critical thinkers and versatile readers. So we need a math program that has challenging word problems and utilizes specific mathematics vocabulary. Here in this picture, you can see that math expressions ends up highlighting all of the vocabulary words and those math words that are important instead of just glossing over them. The kids are really drawn to using them and seeing them, and they can go back to them easily by having them highlighted. And for critical reading, here is an example of a performance task. So you have a graph to read, you have a situation to read, you have these long questions to read. So it's asking for you to really be a critical thinker to go over it. It's at the level you need it to be in. I think this is a 4th grade level. But we're asking you to really take in all of the information and think about it critically. So that's the introduction.
Any questions for Chelsea?
I'm sure they'll come up.
Wow, that's not fair. Okay.
Yeah, so you're on the hot
Yeah, I have a question.
Next.
It seems to me then there's an overlap between math and English when you're talking about formulating questions. And there's some concern about basic grammar, right? The grammar of a sentence and the grammar of a question. Like,
Not so much grammar, but an encouragement of using the same vocabulary, math vocabulary. I'm trying.
John, the new math programs have far more language in it. The students are required to read far more than an old-fashioned textbook, which you might have seen a lot of numbers. All the new math programs are very language-based, so there's a lot of overlap with making sure that literacy skills are strong. There's a high correlation between students being successful in language arts and doing well in math. Thank you.
Sorry. Doesn't stretch as much.
The parts that I highlighted here aren't, they aren't including a lot of more of the computation. There is still computation in mathematics. I wouldn't want you to walk away thinking that the kids are just going to be reading problems all day, or that they're as long as that performance task that I put up there. That would just be a compilation of after you finish your unit or something.
okay.
Did I answer it good?
Well, no, frankly, I like the emphasis on critical thinking and questioning skills. There's a classic math problem I still remember. Fred is driving from New York to Chicago, and Ralph is driving from New York to Chicago. One is at 30 miles per hour, and the other's at 45. And then you're supposed to figure out who's going to get there first. I remember asking, well, why is Ralph just driving 30 miles an hour? Why don't they speed it up a bit? Or why are they going to Chicago? But
Did you get it right?
No, I got in trouble in math class for asking questions like that.
Yeah.
Just skip that she would say. I'm sure they wouldn't. I don't know where that's going. I just throw it out for what it's worth.
So we might entertain some discussion around those kinds of inquiry from students, because really math is more than just numbers. So that's where it would go. We probably wouldn't shut it down right away. We wouldn't entertain too much of it, but we would probably explore the question.
There was another fault, and I'm 73 years old. So when they were teaching it, when I was in elementary, they seemed to love using money as the basic quantity for math, you know? And there were kids in my classroom who didn't have very much money. But now the kids who had an allowance, they had some idea of money, but it was like a class bias going right into it. So I guess that has changed. I hope it's changed.
Well, now no one really knows how to use money because of debit
Yeah,
cards.
we do
and
debit cards.
credit cards, which is a problem on its own.
All set? So my presentation isn't as fancy as Chelsea's because I don't know how to do a prezi, but she's promised to teach me. So, and before I start, I do want to thank Chelsea in particular and the math committee as a whole and every single elementary teacher, because they are all involved in this pilot in some way, shape, or form and have done everything that we've asked and embraced it and have been great negotiators and debaters, and they really pulled through. So I just want to make sure that we publicly thank them and appreciate all that they've done with all the other things they have on their plate. So, yeah. All right, here we go. So I just want to talk a little bit about our committee makeup. We had 3 principals who are here this evening. Central Office Administrator, that's me. Math specialists, we had 3. A math coach, our kindergarten teacher, first grade teacher, 2 second grade teachers, 3 third grade teachers, 2 fourth grade, and 3 fifth grade teachers on the committee. And then we got additional input from a 6th grade math teacher for a little bit. We had the middle school math coordinator come over and speak about the programs, that we've chosen, or speak to them, making sure they would align with the 6th grade text. We had professional development in specific texts. We had a meeting with the East Long Meadow curriculum director, who has chosen Eureka Math over there, so she was picking our brain, I think, as much as we were picking hers, but it was a helpful kind of discussion. And our committee was based on some guiding principles, and the first is the belief that all students learn at high levels or can learn at high levels, and that teacher knowledge of mathematics and good teaching is the strongest predictor of student successes. So for pilot information, to start the process, we researched high achieving districts, we researched our cohort districts, we looked at high growth districts in particular, we looked at our local districts. I talked to the LPVEC districts, and we chose several texts for the committee to consider. Our programs needed to be strong in assessment, planning and instruction, communication, classroom culture and environment, and family and community partnership, and all of those are things that Chelsea talked about and why we need a new program. And then our large committee got to work, and we narrowed all the choices based on the NCSM Leadership Association rubric. And the rubric compared math texts and materials to the Common Core state standards. We looked for visual content, ease of use, appropriate flow in the curriculums. And here are all the programs that we explored. I want to keep reading to you. And at the end of that, we were recommending Eureka or Engage New York, and that's the last time you'll see Engage New York. I'll call it Eureka from here on in, but they are one and the same. Engage New York is an online version, and Eureka is a printed version with also an online component. Go Math and Math Expressions. And after we picked the 3 pilots, probably, 2 days later, Chelsea?
Mm-hmm.
Ed Reports came out with a big comparison of all the math texts or the math materials, and so we got that after the fact, but we were happy to see that our picks, 2 of them at least, scored fairly well on Ed Reports. And then right after Ed Reports came out, a contradicting report or several actually came out, to contradict the finding of Ed reports. So you have a packet of information, and I think that's the website of Ed reports. It's pages and pages long, but there's NCTM report in there also that's probably worth a read at some point. And then we analyzed, this was really hard work by the math specialist. They analyzed where grades K through 5 were in the curriculum at that time. They analyzed which units grades K through 5 had left to teach in the year, and they assigned common units by grade level across schools. And this was actually pretty telling work because we found a couple grade levels that were teaching different units at different times. Now, they had plans to get everything done by the end of the school year, but they were on different units at different times, so we had to kind of finagle which units were left that they had in common. So that was another, telling reason why we needed to really look at a curriculum that we could follow step by step. So our pilot work, and I think you all know this, but one teacher per grade level, per school, piloted a common unit in each program. So that means all 3 texts were piloted at every grade in each school. And above and beyond that, teachers were encouraged to explore and use materials from texts other than the program they were piloting, and we heard a lot about that from the math committee. They were kind of trying this and that from the other pilots as well. And the math specialist and coach spent days and hours diving into the 3 curriculums and looking at the major units to compare key areas. We did site visits in Colchester, Lenox, and South Hadley. And here's some statistics on South Hadley after a year of expressions. So their numbers are very encouraging. So this is the number of students proficient or advanced between 2013 and 2014. And you can see the shift. That's all students. And then non-disabled students is the second bar. And then the high need students, which includes ELL, Title I, special ed, made a nice increase. And then the special needs students as well jumped in proficient and advanced.
So they saw an increase in
every area.
Category.
Yeah,
Okay.
every category,
Wow.
yeah. Eureka data is hard to come by in this area because it is really brand new. People are just now adopting it. Colchester has had it for a year and spoke highly of it, but didn't have a lot of data to share with us. If you talk to our first grade teachers at Blueberry, they would tell you that their students have definitely had an increase in knowledge and concept and fluency from prior years. They would say, I can't believe all the things that my students learned this year and what we're capable of, so that was nice to hear. That's that. And we had discussions with other districts. This is a short list, but we talked to many, many districts about what they were using, how they were using it, how they implemented it, how their teachers received it, what their PD looked like, all kinds of questions.
What, do you mind if I ask, what drove us to talk to districts like Vernon, Connecticut, or Newburyport?
We had to seek out districts that were using Eureka.
Okay.
Yeah, they're few and far between.
It's interesting that so many of them are local, though.
Yeah, well, the local ones were local because I went to a meeting and we all talked about it, but, it's good to see what people in the near area are using, yeah. We talked to lots of staff in our cohort too, or lots of teachers in our cohort. So, we did a survey, a rubric, end of the pilot rubric for teacher feedback, and here are the results. And it's based on a 0 to 2 scale, so a very small scale. And you can see that our 2 top are pretty neck and neck for a little bit, and then Eureka Math Expressions pulls ahead. And then you can see our specialist pilot feedback. So that is those are our 4 math experts, real experts who are pretty close to mathematical geniuses, I discovered, and really appreciated the Eureka program for its rigor and depth. I just want to show you a sample rubric question because the rubrics were not easy to fill out. They really involved some thinking from the teachers who piloted. So materials assist teachers in engaging and constructing viable arguments and analyzing the arguments of others concerning key grade level mathematics detailed in the content standards. The question itself is very rigorous. So they had to score meets, partially meets, or does not meet expectations. And we took a look at how many times expressions met expectations and how many times Eureka did. And here's our graph that indicates that. And then the final recommendation process, the whole committee met, and we fairly immediately ruled out Go Math based on teacher response, on specialist response, on the parent response site, and on the site visits. It just wasn't a program that was rigorous enough for our students at this time.
What was it that they objected to?
It lacked rigor, it lacked consistency, it just wasn't meaty enough.
The teachers didn't like it, the specialists didn't like it.
The
parents.
students were bored.
Yeah.
First
want-
graders were bored.
Want me to go back to the graph to show you a little bit more of that, or?
Well, that doesn't help me understand it very much. It's based on their response, but
Yeah.
what
They
was
scored
the
low
response?
in all the categories, on rigor, on teacher prep, on all of them. It was the lowest scoring text.
Okay.
So we narrowed it down to 2 programs, Eureka and Math Expressions. And then we had lots and lots of discussion based on the following. These are just a sampling of teacher comments. In your packet, you have all of the teacher comments, just copied and pasted, so the mistypes are not mine. Fluency practice is a part of every lesson for Eureka. That was really highly rated by everybody. Very high rigor and deep mathematical thinking. The students constructed viable arguments. The challenges for Eureka was lacks a component for struggling learners, although we looked later and there were some things for struggling learners. The unit did not have a variety of problems, a lot of repetition, overwhelming vocabulary, much teacher time for organization and development of materials. So of all the parent feedback, we got the most parent feedback on Eureka.
How did parents know? I had no idea when my kids were doing it.
Well, they could have been in a classroom where the teacher used the parent component or parent connection.
There's a
Yeah, and some Eureka, remember, was piloted all year long. So those students had a better chance of probably putting it in front of their parents' faces and asking for help.
first graders used it all year.
Yeah. Teacher comments for expressions. Strengths are the material incorporated into specialized language of mathematics was meaningful and useful. The material is rigorous but still user-friendly as a supplement to VMath. VMath is a program that we use for our special needs students. Students found the material to be engaging, challenging, and appropriate. And then challenges for expressions, too much time on teacher-directed activities. The homework correcting is very time-consuming because it's given each night. Overwhelming amount of vocab words already introduced from prior units. And I can see where that would be overwhelming for a teacher piloting a unit and hadn't piloted the prior units and weren't building the vocabulary as they went. So this is parent feedback, which we really want to consider when we work a parent communication piece into the program next year. So for Eureka, considering your child's age and grade level, do you find the math text material too challenging, not challenging enough, or appropriate? So a decent amount felt like it was too challenging, but majority felt like it was appropriate. And I think there were 25 responses for Eureka. And this is what we were really trying to dig into. If a child came home and needed some help or assistance with homework, how easy was it to have parents look at the material and help their kids? And so 80% of the parents there felt like Eureka was not a great fit for that.
Which I think we heard a lot of.
Based on the comments that I saw, you may have heard a lot of that.
And I mean, a lot of it's anecdotal because it's stuff you see on social media, but there was a lot of what I can only assume was the Eureka or Engage program, and a lot of questions about, it doesn't look like
It's not pretty.
It's not pretty.
Right,
It
not a
doesn't
pretty
look like
package.
even what I learned or what, what most of us learned, so,
Right. But it is a good program.
no doubt.
Okay. Math expressions for parent assistance, just a small sampling of folks there. I think 7 people responded, and of those, 3 people thought that it wasn't too helpful, and 1 did. And that just means we have to be mindful of that when we work next year with parents. Math expressions, grade level appropriateness, 40%, same amount, thought that the text was appropriate, 28% too challenging, and 5 not challenging enough. So that's where differentiation comes in the classroom. Did you have a question, John? No. So there were 25 responses for Eureka on parent comments. And you have all of them in your packet. Here are just a couple, or there's a few more, I believe.
I was purposely trying to trip up students with unclear
Yeah,
instructions.
so I tried to pick out the ones that were appropriate for television.
Oh.
But it was great that parents gave feedback. Really, that's really helpful to us for next year. Most of the parent comments on Eureka were about how challenging it was and how hard it was to help, and around those kinds of ways, confusing, new math type stuff. And then expressions. This is it. These are all the comments. So you don't have any, or you may have a few, but there were 3 or 4. Actually, I added a 4th comment that was just a general kind of comment. What the problems were fun to do, enjoyed the program immensely. Again, 7 responses. So.
I've heard the parent guide several times. The new language.
I might have got that comment from somebody sitting here. Student assessment results, which we didn't take a big look at with the committee because teachers were teaching different units, they were in different places in different units, it was really hard to compare. But the specialist, again, made a post-test, and we looked at that data, and each grade had 5 questions, just 5 questions, and they took the test, and we looked at how many items were correct on comparable questions. So on comparable questions, expressions came out ahead 12, Eureka 5, and they were a tie in 3 of the areas. And I think I included a sample because they worked so hard on this. This is a sample of the 5th grade assessment. Just 5 questions. And they did measurement, right, in 5th grade? Yeah, and they had nothing too easy, some geometry.
Some 5th grade did measurement and some did geometry, yeah.
So as we sat around the table in this room yesterday, we had a lot of discussion points. We started in October, but there was a little snow this winter, and it delayed us and delayed us and delayed us. I think 3 times it delayed us, which actually pushed us back a month. Despite that, people persevered and pushed through. We had discussion on continuing the pilot for another year, and the majority of the committee felt like that wasn't an appropriate solution for us. We talked about strengths of programs, the challenges, the rollout, and the PD strategies for both programs. They were a little different. And then we talked about probably the most challenging thing for us was making a decision based on all stakeholders, our students, staff, and our parents. So we kind of had to get out of our roles as administrators or teachers or math specialists and think about what would work best for the school system and the teachers who were teaching this to our children. And we came back to our guiding principles that all students learn at high levels and that teacher knowledge of mathematics is good teaching and the strongest predictor of student success. And going back to the teacher feedback from the rubric and their preference for expressions and their kind of willingness to embrace that program, knowing that there was good PD, we came to that conclusion, which you all found out yesterday. But that's where we're at. So the committee recommends expressions going forward. And there's the price. That's an estimate. We need to get another estimate based on new classrooms and enrollment and things like that. So it could potentially be lower, actually. We went high. Yeah.
Does that include professional development for the teachers?
It includes 2 days of PD. So everything above and beyond the 2 days will either have to be in-house or paid for consultants. Good question.
Okay.
We're in the wrong business. Yep, so next in the process is PD. This is consultant-based PD. We have a lot of it lined up.
And only 2 of those are people coming in from?
This is all consultant-based.
Okay.
All of this is consultant-based, yep.
So these are all already included in that price?
No. The 18th and 19th are included in the price.
Okay.
The other ones are being paid for out of other areas.
So what happens if we don't vote today, if it's already lined up for tomorrow?
I have them on an email alert, and so
Okay.
if you don't vote today, they don't come tomorrow.
Okay, all right, thanks.
But they're a little stressed about it. And then we'll continue with ongoing professional development. The math specialist role will emphasize coaching in the classrooms. With our RTI, we are seeing more and more differentiated instruction. So the kids who may have been going out for Tier 2 instruction hopefully can get some of that right back in the classroom or won't need it with a new math program. Online PD by Houghton Mifflin is available. Teacher collaboration by grade level during extended school days. And PD during early release and full days in the 2015-16 school year is being planned. Any questions?
Can you go back to those, please, the back slide? Yeah. I'm sorry, I don't know exactly how the PD works, but, so, do different teachers come out different days for those?
Yeah.
How does that work?
Yep. Tomorrow and Friday, different grades come out for different times.
Okay.
So not yet.
So,
So every grade level is getting a half a day introductory PD in.
during the school year?
Yes.
And then over the summer?
Right. That's voluntary over the summer. We
Okay.
have folks signed up for PD already. And then August 26th, we'll see where people are in needs as far as the instruction in the text and offer it up to those people who haven't had it.
And so the ones that, over the summer, are the teachers paid to, do we pay for the teachers to come in to do that?
They get paid at the curriculum rate, or they can apply for salary advancement credit for that as well.
Is that somewhere in our budget?
It is.
Differently
Yeah.
that we've already
We have
allocated?
a budget line in.
Yeah, it's in the FY16 budget.
Mhm.
It's under professional development, right?
It's curriculum. There's a PD
Curriculum
line. There's a
development.
curriculum line too.
And do teachers typically sign up for all of these?
Not all of them.
Because I know with some of the other, there's one of the other math programs that we were using a few years ago. Investigations. Sorry.
I can't see.
It's like some teachers were using it, and some teachers weren't. And when I talked with people, they said, "Oh, it's because they didn't have enough professional development." I want to make sure we have enough.
I hear you.
I don't know. I don't.
It's
I
been
just want
a-
to make sure we're giving them the proper amount of.
Absolutely, they
instruction
need it, and I agree. And that was one of our discussion points yesterday. We went, kind of a long time on that particular topic and how we were going to get PD. I think that extended school day is going to be huge help in that area next year. But they need a lot of collaboration time with their colleagues to look at units and roll them out, and so that's a total agreement and understand. I mean, we understand that has to happen really well.
So they'll do that during that 2 long days, the 2 longer days. That's when they'll be collaborating and reviewing this.
The 2 longer days, when?
The Tuesdays and
after-school
Yes,
meetings.
yes. There's a lot of longer. Yes, yeah. That's
Just to be clear, some of that summer is not program specific.
right. Some of the program is good math PD. So we found that we were lacking in really good math professional development. So some of that is related to math.
And is there ideas floating around? Because we know that when the kids get older in first grade teachers teach every subject. Second grade teachers teach every subject. Like, is there any discussion about, maybe once they get into 3rd and 4th and 5th, when the math and literacy gets a little bit more challenging, not that it's not challenging in the early years, but I don't want to say the wrong words, of having a teacher that might be a little stronger in math, teach?
I think there's a lot of that discussion floating around, and principals are here and can maybe speak to that. I know that Marie's been talking to one of her teams in particular about that, so.
Just drag it over.
Sorry, Marie.
Is this part of the same, is this okay
Yeah.
part of this discussion?
It's
I don't
fine,
wanna-
yep.
I know my fifth grade in particular, because of the content heaviness, that we are trying to look at that a little bit as well. We tried it 2 years ago. We're looking at it again, but we also have to look at the timing and how it's going to work out. So, but I told them to think out of the box a little bit, because they are very interested in somewhat departmentalizing, so somebody can focus on particular subjects.
I was just thinking it might help with the amount of
Prep time.
Yeah.
Yes, they are very conscious of that.
the new program.
So Sue, I have a question. And I know the committee came to consensus, and I know you guys have put a ton of work into it. And the committee was represented by at least one teacher per grade level. But I also know that we have, you know, at least 9+ teachers per grade level in elementary across the buildings. So what is the consensus, or have you even looked at consensus of individual teachers?
Well, I think based on the results of the rubric,
Mhm.
the consensus is that Expressions is the best program, or the overall, the majority feel that way.
Right, because I was going to say,
So-
it was, looking at the graphs, it's pretty close. And so I guess
Until you get to the teacher prep and planning kind of
Mhm.
piece, and then from there on in.
Right.
And those are really the things that teachers have to consider in their busy day, like if they're prepping for 4 different classes as elementary teachers. So I think a lot of that we really thought hard about, and with all the other initiatives that are happening, and you know, they're still finishing up literacy, they have other things coming in next year, that the committee really felt like a program that was helpful to teachers in that way was really important. And as I you know, I haven't been out in the schools today, and I know that an email came yesterday, so I don't know what principals have heard today. I didn't hear anything today, negative or positive about it. Maybe Chelsea may have, or.
I didn't hear anything. I had a lot of work to do.
I think it's important to know that even the committee, they struggled with, it was not an easy, they saw the benefits of both programs, and often were torn between which program to go with.
Right.
Which
And
is
I
actually a
would-
good you know, that's a good problem to have, and that was a general feeling that I felt, that there was, you know, they would really listen to their colleagues if one would prefer one and another, and they could see that point. And they were really trying to understand what the other person was trying to say. So there's a lot of going back and forth.
It was a great discussion. It lasted all day, and both programs were strongly considered at different parts during the day, but it ultimately came down to looking at that graph, that the teachers preferred in every single category Expressions. So that finally was ultimately what the committee went with, that everyone could agree that if the teachers felt that strongly, that's the program that we should go with.
And we're providing them with, I just want to make sure we're giving them a really solid foundation to, like, we're giving them
Right,
enough,
and
like,
piggybacking on what you had said before, I get that, you know, these 2 days of PD are mandatory. And so each teacher will get a half a day.
Right.
And then you'll assess in August for that PD day.
We're going to offer summer PD.
And I know
also.
you're
And we
offering
have
in
several
between.
teachers who have asked if they can skip tomorrow and do it in the summer, which is fine. There are things going on in the schools that they need to be at. So, you know, a difficult time of year, we understand that. So we're
And
trying to provide
understandable, but-
every opportunity possible for them to get what they need to start.
to be able to
Get to dig in
running
and go.
September.
Yeah.
And I guess I'd be interested, you know, reporting back in September of what the percentages were of who took advantage of those other dates
Okay.
where it's not mandatory. Because I would hope, you know.
Give you
and-
numbers?
I know, numbers, math.
Okay.
The summer or even the online PD, I mean, the online PD sounds great too.
Right,
Yeah.
but
We have
to-
that in
Yeah.
the summer.
I guess I just, and it's not that I'm distrusting our teachers or questioning, you know, their dedication or their improvement, because I know we've got a lot on their plates, but just that, you know, that they're taking advantage of all of what we're offering them. Not even from a financial standpoint, but from we want a quality program to roll out in September.
I think they feel the same way. They are.
And I figured they would.
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
And they would speak up if they felt like they weren't
Our teachers?
If they didn't feel like they were given.
Marcy, are you here?
If they didn't feel like they were getting given enough, prep time for this start in September, they would.
Yes, they would speak up. They have spoken up. It's a concern that we're really trying hard to address.
I only had the chance to ask one teacher today, and it wasn't even my own child's teacher. So.
It's a challenging time of year for teachers right now. They have lots of stuff going on. I think field day's over everywhere though, right?
Oh, yes.
Field day. So at least that's done. But they have class plays and, wax museums and,
No, they are.
tons
They're-
of stuff going
they're
on,
busy,
celebrating the end of the school year. If it ever comes, then, so.
But it was important for us to supply as many dates as possible to make sure the teachers have the opportunity. Some prefer to come during the summer when it's more relaxed. Some prefer to do it during the school year, which is why we're doing it at the end of June. So we tried to do as many opportunities. But the teachers did refer to that extended day and how that's going to be a great opportunity to be collaborating with one another. That's one of the reasons they didn't want the pilot extended. They felt that broke down collaboration when people were working on different programs. So I think we're excited about having that extended time so that a lot of math work can happen at that time too.
Russ, did you?
Well, I noticed, and I haven't looked at what we just got here, but in the other packet that you sent a couple days ago, it looked like there were a number of teachers that couldn't answer the questions because they hadn't done the whole pilot or the whole program.
There was one teacher, I think, had that response all the way across. So I think there were two
Oh, so that was the same teacher?
Yeah, the same teacher,
Okay.
right, and another one. And the measurement unit for Eureka is not a real unit. It shows up in several what are called modules throughout the 5th grade experience. So the specialist, pulled all the measurement stuff and put together kind of a unit for them. So that we had maybe a comment on that as well.
So the teachers on the subcommittee, were they comfortable moving forward this coming year with a new program?
Yes.
They were, okay.
Question.
Ready for a excuse me.
I'm sorry. Does Expressions give special or have different teaching for students with higher needs?
There is a differentiated special needs component, and Chelsea, you want to speak a little bit to that? Because that wasn't an area of great strength for Expressions, but...
There is different levels. There's challenge problems provided. There's different intervention books provided. A lot of it is very like the same kind of problems, but maybe different numbers, or to make it a little bit more accessible. I think that the key to the program itself, or parts of the program that would help our different learners, high and low, is this new focus on communication and expression. It'll make it easier for those children who need to talk more or see more visuals, and it will make it harder for those kids who really like to just memorize things and aren't always pushed every day to try to express and explain and find a different way.
And my other question was, so after this is, goes through, it's not a pilot anymore, then all the teachers are going to be using this program. They're not going to, some's going to use investigations.
No, everyone's going to use them, and there's a big recycling. Actually, Riff, I should talk to you about that. Of all the other pilot material, and we have 2 texts out there floating around, Scott Forsman and investigations, that we also have to get rid of. And we really are, I guess, going to get rid of it so that it's not even available for teachers.
They've already been
can I
showing
just
up
comment?
at my door asking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're excited to get them out.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and the
gonna be
one
successful.
thing that I heard over and over at Blueberry was we just want the same math program. They were all using a common math program. So I'm not worried about that.
So in terms of supplementing, Chelsea, I guess, with those who need it, and I guess it piggybacks on what Liz was asking is, if we're looking to supplement for those learners who need a different style or a different intervention, is there going to be a set supplementation that is district-wide if we're getting rid of everything else?
Yes, we've already decided that the specialists will work on giving a district-wide, just as you said, distribution of the supplements.
Okay.
For special education students, though, you have to remember that it's individually designed instruction for them. So what they need, they get. It's not going to be the same for every single
Right,
student.
but I guess it just piggybacks on to Liz, is, we're
It-
not going to have,
Yeah.
investigations on the side that we're pumping in, and we're not gonna
Well, we
have.
have installed cameras everywhere, but I think we
Well, I
started the
know.
process.
But if you're
Yeah.
doing a major house cleaning.
I really think that teachers really would like to just kind of move on. Get rid of their old stuff and move on and have some space in their classrooms and get the new program and get
They
going.
have all those
Yeah.
new books, they want room for 'em.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And there's been even talk, I believe, of other special educators even being excited about having expressions. They've used some of it. They're ready to also try to incorporate it when they can.
Great.
So.
Does this kind of set the stage for a common assessment throughout the elementary schools? So
Yeah.
so third grade will have the same assessments throughout the year, and at the end of the year, at all 3 of our elementary schools?
You're asking great questions. I'm glad we covered them all.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
These are all things we discussed.
Yeah.
Luckily, Expressions has a beginning of the year and end of the year test for each grade, which would be nice. We still have to discuss it, but we will probably end up using that for each grade.
For pre-board testing, but
yeah.
and we also talked about having to look at every assessment, making sure it was appropriate, adding, taking away. So that's more work.
With the pilot, we couldn't go through every single one, so we really want to make sure that each assessment is going to be something that all 3 schools can confidently give to the students, but they have a great basis at the very least, so we don't see too much.
It's like at the end of each grade.
At the end of
every
each
kid
unit.
and- well,
They'll all take the same, and then
but
at the end of each
essen-
grade.
I mean,
Yep.
they could be weeks apart from each other at different schools.
I hope
Oh,
not.
well, okay. Well,
No.
Okay.
Not weeks.
But let's just say at the end of the year.
Days, but yeah.
Every second grade student in Longmeadow will have learned gotten the same information. They may have gotten it differently because teachers teach things
Different teaching
differently.
styles, yes, but
But
right,
the
it's the same
core
scope and
information-
sequence with the same,
Okay.
yeah.
Do they have any online components that go with
Yes,
this?
they do. Yes, they do. So you'll be getting information as a parent on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that I had emailed you about was there was a front row that we were using.
That's a free program that's not attached to any program, so you can keep using it regardless of what program goes forward.
What was useful to us was that it had an actual video. If you didn't know how to complete the math problem,
They would
sorry,
show you.
It would, you click on the video and it showed you. And I know that with some of the math worksheets that came home with my kids, one kid,
The other one doesn't do it.
the other one doesn't, well, not that type of math yet. We would go and we would Google the math. I would literally type it into Google and try and find a video so that he could watch it. And with the videos that we could find were awesome. And so any type of online component to
I
help.
think you can access the student book online, and I think that will be a good reference for parents.
Right.
And I think I'm not sure exactly how many, but there's videos.
Several videos, and we
Yeah.
also talked about some parent information nights and things like that that will be helpful for parents. I think that was a piece that was probably lacking in
So
the
will
last
you-
program.
Will you continue to utilize IXL?
We talked about that today. Yep. I think IXL is still on the docket for next
I
year.
was just curious because from my understanding, expressions being the more verbal based and the spiraling, but I'm assuming you still want students to have their
Still need their
basic
fluency in there.
math facts where,
IXL's more than math facts.
right. But that it's, because in some ways, it's a contradictory way of looking at it, of memorizing your math facts, of, 4 times, memorizing your times tables,
Yeah.
memorizing your addition, but yet the program is teaching the cognitive
Right.
and the reasoning.
You have to, you're a good math reasoner if you can quickly know your facts.
Okay.
So that you need both. Did I say that right, Chelsea? Yeah.
Do you need more?
Yeah.
Eventually.
So
Russ, then John.
I didn't even fill out the survey, which I always fill out surveys, but this time I didn't.
It's
Because
closed.
I found it too hard I didn't even really know what I was comparing it to, because I didn't know what the other programs looked like. But the most common concern I heard, which I've heard in some of your school committee meetings, is that the parents, especially in math, who can't figure out how to help our kids, because the terminology is so much different than when we were kids. So as part of this, is there a way, are we going to try and do something at the beginning of the year so parents, whatever the resources are, if we could even give them like a cheat sheet or something?
Yeah, we really talked a lot about parent communication and having some, like, just some parent math nights maybe, and some good, back and forth sheets home, like guides Kim was talking about, that will be helpful for parents, for sure.
Well, I mean, I know I was talking to a parent last week, and she said in her Google search, she actually found the answers to her child's math sheet.
We were just talking about a lot of expression stuff online. Yes.
She said having the answers helped her figure out how to show her child how to get there.
It's not necessarily always a bad idea.
So, I mean, however you do it, it's just.
John?
I move that we accept the recommendation of the panel.
Okay, so I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion on adopting math expressions as our new math program starting next year?
One more question. It's the middle school math teachers felt like it a lot, like at the fifth grade level, it was aligning.
The middle school math chair came down and talked about the two programs and felt that it was fine. She really talked about any one program would be wonderful, because the kids get to middle school now coming from different backgrounds, different programs, and that's a challenge for the sixth grade teachers. So,
I do want to make one comment. So I could see that everything at the end of the year, you're scrambling to get things done. But in the future, I'd really need to get some of this earlier so I can make a more informed decision, because this document here, I haven't actually read through all of it because we just got it. So I do understand that it was kind of a rush process, and we have the PD, so we really need to vote tonight. But in the future, I'd really like to have this information earlier.
agreed. I would love to be able to give it to you earlier. It was tight.
Considering that they
Absolutely.
finished meeting yesterday at
was
4
our big
o'clock.
meeting, so
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Russ.
If I can
on
vote,
that.
I agree.
Obviously, you and I spoke about it, and I don't.
Right, and I
don't
think
need
I
it.
had brought up at our last meeting, was there any
Yeah.
way that they could push up their dates so that we would have time, that we could have not had a special meeting?
They
We're
were
trying to get a
really
big committee
piloting
together. It's-
right up until the 12th. People were
Right.
piloting, finishing their units. So
No, I think in an ideal world, we would have known a lot earlier. what
Right,
was actually,
you know, weather notwithstanding and such a large committee.
Yeah, so I echo.
And I think at the end, it seems like when I was reading through those teacher comments, some of those teachers put a lot of thought into the comments that they put, and so have it being rushed between the 12th and
Today?
yesterday, when
Yeah,
they were
when it was due.
the majority of them came in sooner than that, but we couldn't aggregate any of the information or analyze any of it until they all came in.
Well, just,
But
I think it
yes,
should be
but they worked
noted that they
hard on the rubric, but they
definitely-
needed to have their opportunity to
Right.
get it in.
they put
Yeah.
their.
Right, because they have, like you said, not only the committee has put forth a great effort, but all of our teachers who have been piloting have definitely put in the time and energy. You know, and I'd like to echo
And
your
then-
thanks to them, so,
Absolutely.
Yes.
you know, because it's,
Grateful.
because we
It's-
do ask a lot.
Above and beyond what they were
Right,
supposed to do.
right. So any further comments, or can we call for a vote?
Call for a vote.
All right, so all of those in favor of adopting math expressions, right? Math expressions for next year. Okay, you have a unanimous vote. So I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
All right.
All right, thank you very much. We will be back Monday,
Fun stuff.
the 22nd at 7. Have a great evening.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.